and I can't believe I have to ask you this, but I do, because Donald Trump has been attacking Kamala Harris's racial identity.
He has not been, but ask your question.
Well, he questioned her racial identity. He said a number of years ago, she happened to turn Black. Her father is Jamaican. Do you believe Kamala Harris is Black?
I believe that Kamala Harris is whatever she says she is, but I believe importantly that President Trump is right that she's a chameleon. She pretends to be one thing in front of one audience. She pretends to be something different in front of another audience. Look, Dana, she's not running a political campaign. She's running a movie. She only speaks to voters behind a teleprompter. Everything is scripted. She doesn't have her policy positions out there. She hasn't answered why she wanted to ban fracking, but now she doesn't. She wanted to fund police, but now she doesn't. She wanted to open the border, but now she doesn't. She should have to answer for why she presents a different set of policies to one audience and a different set of policies to another audience. And I think that's what President Trump is getting at. This is a fundamentally fake person. She's different depending on who she's in front of.
What's up, y'all? Gerald here, creator of Gospel Chops and your host for this YouTube channel, back with another video. Now, y'all have seen over the last few weeks how tumultuous the campaign trail has gotten for not only the Trump campaign, but for now the Harris campaign. Well, seems like she's deployed nothing short of an army to run cover for her as she tries to figure things out on this campaign trail. And well, it seems like that army might not be ready for what they're up against. Just saw this interview on the CNN network, also known as the Crying Negro Network. We've seen people like Bakari Sellers and Victor Blackwell and Van Jones and even Angela Rye all shed tears and blow snot on that network to try to play on your emotions. Well, seems like this experienced reporter, Dana Bash, thought she was going to be able to push some buttons with J.D. Vance, vice presidential candidate on the Trump ticket. Boy, did she get it wrong. She came in with her questions. She came in with her notes. Y'all, she was loaded for bear. Unfortunately, she faced a beast. Let's get into this interview. Y'all, I'm going to try not to interrupt if I can. Let's watch this and watch JD cook. He clearly is outclassing this woman who thinks she's above him, shall we say. Let's get into this.
Within a week of you being named on the VP ticket, the Democratic nominee changed. And you guys seem to be struggling a little bit with how to approach the new dynamic. How are you approaching your new opponent and the new ticket?
Yeah, well, I think it's pretty straightforward, actually. We're running against a set of policies that I think have failed the American people, and we're running to a set of policies, President Trump's 4 years in office, that I think really succeeded for the American people. And I think that what's different about it, and you're right, Dana, it is different, but what's different about it is that we're running against a different person who a lot of Americans just don't know. And so I think we have to remind people that President Trump delivered lower prices, lower inflation, a prosperous and peaceful world, and also a secure border. And Kamala Harris's policies have produced the exact opposite. Now, that was an easier case to make when Joe Biden was in there because people associate Joe Biden with the policies. But I think Kamala Harris clearly owns the policies of the Biden-Harris administration, especially when we consider the fact that, as we've all learned over the last few months, Joe Biden clearly isn't capable of doing the job. And so I think that drives home that Kamala Harris really has been the one calling the shots. I mean, how could she not? I think Joe Biden doesn't really know where he is.
Kamala Harris has been calling the shots as who?
Well, I think she has to have been, right? Because if she's not calling the shots, Dana, then who is? And I do think it drives home something that's fundamentally dishonest about the way that Vice President Harris and also a lot of senior Democrats have approached this. If you remember, for months, even years, the argument was that Joe Biden was sharp. He could clearly do the job. And the minute that he performed poorly in that debate and he became political dead weight, you have Kamala Harris and everybody else trying to throw him overboard. But I think the more troubling question is, why did so many senior Democrats, including the vice president, cover for him? And if Joe Biden wasn't capable of doing the job, as even a lot of Democrats say now, was Kamala Harris in charge or was somebody else in charge? And that's a real issue.
That is a great question, y'all, that no one seems to want to answer, but you are the VP. You're the vice president. If this man cannot function and everyone around him seems to be hiding him, well, who's actually running the country? Who's making the decisions? It would seem like it would be the vice president, right? The second in charge. But if she's incapable, if she's incompetent, they might have skipped right on over her, gave it to a chief of staff, gave it to some congressional supporters. We don't know because no one seems to want to answer that question, but it's clear that Kamala has endorsed the policies of the Biden administration. She is therefore worthy of being held responsible, not only for those policies, but for the treacherous outcomes that those policies have wrought. Let's get back into this.
No evidence that Kamala Harris threw him overboard. But I want to move on to something that Governor Walz has called you and Donald Trump, and that is weird.
Sure.
And it is taken off. The New York Times reports that when Donald Trump was asked about it, he said, "Not me, they're talking about JD."
Well, certainly they've levied that charge against me more than anybody else, but I think that it drives home how they're trying to distract from their own policy failures. I mean, look, this is fundamentally schoolyard bully stuff. They can accuse me of whatever they want to accuse me of. As Harry S. Truman once said, if you can't take the heat, stay out of the kitchen. And I'm doing this because I think that me being vice president will help improve people's lives. So I accept their attacks, but I think that it is a little bit of projection, Dana. If you think about just take a couple of days ago, Tim Walz gives this big speech. He's been announced as the VP nominee. And I remember when I had just been announced as the VP nominee, I gave my big speech and I saw my wife and I gave her a big hug and a kiss because I love my wife. And I think that's what a normal person does. Tim Walz gave his wife a nice, firm Midwestern handshake and then tried to sort of awkwardly correct for it. So I think that what it is two people, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, who aren't comfortable in their own skin because they aren't comfortable with their policy positions for the American people. And so they're name calling instead of actually telling the American people how they're going to make their lives better. I think that's weird, Dana, but look, they can call me whatever they want to.
You're saying Tim Walz doesn't have affection for his wife? I don't even understand that.
I said that he acted weird, which he did, on a national stage in front of his wife and in front of millions of Americans who presumably were watching at home. And I think that it's projection, Dana. Look, I think this election should be about who's going to solve the inflation crisis, who's going to make groceries and housing more affordable, who's going to secure that southern border. Kamala Harris's record is that she supported all the policies that made that problem worse, Dana. We're trying to say we're going to take the country in a different direction. I really think that it's important to point this out, Dana. Their entire campaign has not been about, here's our policy for how we're going to make your life better, or here's what's wrong with Donald Trump and JD Vance's policies. We're going to name call and hope that you don't notice that we don't have an agenda. That is the entire Democrat approach to this election.
That is why I like JD Vance, y'all. This dude is so sharp. He's intelligent. He's articulate. He is well-versed on the subject matter, well-versed on the facts. And this lady here is out of her league. She's an elitist. She's an elitist reporter. She's a feminist by all accounts. And she thinks that she can come into this interview and run circles around this man, not knowing what she was up against. The man went to Yale Law School. You think he haven't seen elitist before? He was well prepared for battle. Let's continue.
They have done both. They have both policies, and they are trying to define
Dana,
you as well.
If you go to Kamala Harris's campaign page right now, they still don't have a policy.
Well, let's talk about
policy positions
versus
about what they're going to do. I think that's really insulting to Americans.
You started out talking about the policies.
It's really insulting to everyone who has to endure this interview because this woman is clearly trying to run cover for the Harris campaign. And this is an issue with the Democrat Party, y'all. They have all of these industry plants in the media that will go out and do their dirty work for them. They will try to get JD Vance in an interview and kneecap him. They'll try to get Donald Trump in an interview and kneecap him. As long as these dudes stand 10 toes down on business, America's business, the family's business, I think they'll be fine because they're standing on solid ground. And these Democrats are on shaky ground. She gonna bring up weirdness? They called you weird? How do you feel about weird? Well, some of the things they stand for are weird. And some of the people who support them are weird. The purple-haired teachers. The people with all the piercings in their face.
What about you?
I've also been pregnant and had an abortion before. I was a minor, and it would have been dangerous for me to properly, like, it would have been dangerous for me to carry a baby with, like, personal reasons and everything. I also, like, I'm very, alternative, and I feel like if Trump were to win, I wouldn't be able to, like, express myself through my looks and everything, and wouldn't be able to have the piercings or the dyed hair or the tattoos that I want. I would be able to be myself, and my dad's very pro-Trump, and I'm just very
Pro-Kamala.
pro-Kamala. Yeah, I don't, it's
Does
just,
that cause a divide at all?
yeah, it definitely does. He thinks that Kamala's going to ruin the country, but I think that Trump would do worse, like a lot. Like, Kamala is going to be good for the country.
You have been on the campaign trail questioning Tim Walz's military record. You say it was shameful that Governor Walz retired from the military before his unit deployed to Iraq. I want to read you something that Joe Eustace, who is a veteran, he served with Governor Walz, said. He said that's a lie. He said he was as good a soldier as you'll find. I'm not trying to defend him. I hope people don't think that. What I'm trying to do is defend someone who served his country. I'm not voting for him. I'll campaign against him, but I don't think it's fair to characterize his service the way they have. Governor Walz served 24 years.
Sure.
He even stayed after he could have retired because of 9/11, more than the country asked of him. Do you honor his service?
Well, of course, Dana, I honor his service. And I've never criticized what Tim Walz did when he was in the military. I criticized his retirement decision. And most importantly, Dana, I criticized his lying about his own record, okay? This is a guy who was captured on video saying, I carried a gun in war. He never went to war. This is a guy who's been captured on video. As other people say, he's an Afghanistan veteran. He's a veteran of a war, nodding along in agreement instead of saying, no, I did serve my country and I did it honorably, but I never went to a war zone. I'm not criticizing Tim Walz's service. I'm criticizing the fact that he lied about his service for political gain, Dana. Now, I served in the United States Marine Corps, and you know this. And look, there are a lot of things that I'm proud about. I've never lied about what I did or overstated it because it would be beneficial to me in an election. I think that's what Tim Walz did. That's what I was criticizing. And yes, I do think it's scandalous behavior.
You talked about one of the things that he said, weapons of war. He was talking in a campaign stop about, he was trying to talk about gun control.
Sure.
And he said, weapons of war I carried in war. I will say that the Harris-Walz campaign did say that the governor misspoke there.
Sure.
Do you accept that?
He misspoke. Another word is that he lied about it, and he didn't correct the record for 15 years until he was put under political pressure because I called it out, Dana. Whatever you want to call it, a misspeaking or a lie, I think Tim Walz should have to correct the record. Now, you pointed out a soldier who defended his service. There have been a number of soldiers who served with Tim Walz who have criticized him on the exact same grounds that I have because it's not right to misstate or to embellish what you've done. And I think that's what he did.
Did you notice how she tried to get a little word in every now and then, try to interject and advocate for the other side? It seems like she's not being an objective reporter. That's the thing I hate about some of these people. Because you're not being objective. And this is coming from someone who has a journalism degree. It's not just about the facts. It's about advocacy on her part, and she seems to be advocating for one side. It's unfortunate, but it's what we have to deal with in modern day journalism on networks like CNN. I'm glad he handled it the way he did. He ran circles around this woman and left her speechless. If y'all want to go check out the full interview, head over to CNN. You can see the rest of it. But I think we've seen enough to understand where she was coming from, what she was intending to do, and how she tried to rope him in to certain narratives. And I love how he stepped out of every box that she tried to put him in. Very intelligent man, and I'm glad that he's on the ticket. I'm warming up to him. I read his book, Hillbilly Elegy. Didn't really like it. I understood him more about his upbringing and his journey, but it didn't really reveal much to me. But if you want to check it out, go check it out. Hillbilly Elegy is the title of his book. It'll give you a little narrative about how he grew up, how he was raised, and his journey to becoming successful in life. I'm glad he spoke on his wife. A lot of people don't know that his wife is also an Indian. So when you talk about the ethnicity of Kamala Harris, well, you're going to run into a roadblock. You're going to run into a speed bump. You're going to run into an issue there. You can't play the regular, oh, Republicans are racist narrative. No, this man got brown kids. And it's time for Kamala to come out and say what she is. Are you Indian? Are you black? We don't really care about whether you're Indian or black. We care about the fact that you're lying about what it is, just like he referenced in the military service reference with Tim Walz. It's not about his military service. It's about the lie he told about his military service. Note the distinction. We don't really care if Kamala is black or Indian. We just want to know why you're lying about it. What are you hiding? What is the truth? Then we can make further assessments about who you are as a candidate, because as JD Vance noted, ain't no policy on your website. So we don't have much to go on except your lies and falsities and advocates in the form of news reporters that you send out here. Y'all, what do you think about this interview on the Crying Negro Network and how they treated JD Vance, or she tried to treat him like he was some crying Negro on the network, like he was going to bust out in tears like Van Jones or Bakari Sellers? Nah, didn't work. You got more than you could handle that day. Y'all let me know what you think about this. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share the video so we can get more people involved in the conversation, y'all. And like I always say, always remember and never forget, without the gospel, it's just chops. Until next time, peace.